This is the home of a Jewish family living before the time of Jesus in the time of the Old Testament. Once a year, every Jewish family had a special meal to remember what God had done for them. What had God done for them, you ask? He had rescued them. You see, long, long ago, the anger of God against sin was coming down on the people of Egypt. God was angry at the people of Egypt who had enslaved his people. So God sent 9 great and powerful warnings called plagues. But the Egyptians did not listen to God, and they did not change their ways. God warned them that if they didn't obey him, the 10th and most terrible plague would come. The firstborn son in every household in Egypt would die because of their sin. Now God wanted to save his people from this terrible punishment for sin, so he told each family to take their best lamb and to kill it and to put its blood on their doorposts. Moses explained to them, when the punishment for sin comes, God will look at the blood and know that a lamb died instead of you. And that is just what happened. The Lord passed over everyone who had the blood of the lamb on their doorposts. And the next day, Moses led all his people out of slavery in Egypt and into freedom. And so Jewish families ever since have celebrated this special Passover meal to remember the time that God had saved them from the punishment of sin, rescued them from slavery, and made them his people. During the Passover meal, lamb and wine and unleavened bread are served. Prayers are said, and the people give thanks to God for his salvation. Now Jesus was a Jew, and so every year that he lived here on earth, he celebrated this Passover meal. First with his parents, Mary and Joseph, and his brothers and sisters. And then later he grew up. Jesus celebrated the Passover lamb with his disciples on the night before he died. He and his friends gathered together in the upper room in Jerusalem. Lamb and unleavened bread and wine were served as usual. Everyone knew what to expect, since they had celebrated the Passover meal every year of their lives. But then something unexpected happened. Jesus took the bread and he gave thanks to God for it. He broke it and gave it to his disciples, but he didn't say what was usually said. He said, "Take, eat, my body is like this bread. It will break for you. Whenever you eat this bread, remember me." Then after supper, he took the cup of wine and thanked God for it. He poured out some for each of his friends, and again he said something unexpected. He said, "This cup of wine is like my blood. It is the sign of the new covenant, poured out for you to pay for your sin. Whenever you drink from this cup, remember me." You see, Jesus wasn't looking back at how God had rescued his people in Egypt. He was looking forward to how he was going to rescue the whole world. Just as the Passover lamb died, Jesus died so we don't have to. Jesus took the punishment for sin that we deserved. His body was broken so we could be forgiven. His blood was poured out so we can be made clean. But unlike the Lamb, Jesus would rise again from the dead, and in doing so, he would crush sin and death forever. Jesus died once for the whole world. So now, when we gather together as God's church, we celebrate this new meal that Jesus gave us. We call it the Lord's Supper, or Holy Communion. As we gather around the table with bread and wine, lots of things are all happening at the same time. We look back at Jesus' death on the cross and we remember him and what he did for us. As we eat and drink by faith, Jesus feeds us spiritually and helps us to grow strong in our faith. We are assured of Jesus' love for us, and we receive God's grace and all the blessings and benefits of being a child of God. What is the church? The church is the whole community of faithful Christians in heaven and on earth, called and formed by God into one people. And every time we take communion, we are proclaiming to the world that one day Jesus will return. And we look forward to the day when we eat and drink in a heavenly banquet in God's eternal kingdom.